Week 1 is in the books. There's finally film to watch, data to analyze, and opinions to form. We're talking Week 1 takeaways. Let's get it. What's up, fantasy people? You are back with the True North Fantasy Pod. As always, here to inform, empower, and entertain you towards making sound fantasy decisions. I am Trav, hosting and West Coastin', joined by the Italian Dream, Frank Amaranti, as usual. Frank, we've got some week 1 football in the books. Like, how are you feeling right now? Because I am buzzing.
It's just great to have the season back, reviewing previous games, getting ready for the next week, thinking about waiver wires, thinking about players to buy low, sell high on. It's a beautiful time of year.
So beautiful. And you just informed me that you are fresh off a mom-made pasta dinner. So I think you are probably running pure right now, ready to rock as well, Frank. We're going to talk big takeaways from week 1 on this episode. We're probably not going to get to all of them because there's lots of stuff to take away always in week 1, but I think we've got some choice numbers on this episode. But Frank, first, it was a big week for football, but I just want to talk about it was also a great week for the True North Fantasy Football Substack. We've been talking about it on recent episodes and kind of slowly been ramping up the content, but week 1 was absolutely awesome, Frank. So just for any of our listeners who aren't subscribed, we had our week 1 rankings. I had a bit of a start sit matchups article that I posted there for you to get ready for setting your lineups. Frank was posting his bets all weekend long. It seemed like every time I looked, he had a new post with some bets for a different slate. And then we had a Sunday morning Q&A for subscribers as well. So just want to give a big shout out to all the new subscribers. There's been a huge influx, Frank. And if anyone who is listening is not on there, check it out. Because I think with the podcast and the Substack, we have a real wraparound service for fantasy gamers where we can really give them everything they need to be able to feel confident. Kind of that inform, empower, and entertain sentiment that we bring, Frank. Yeah, I'm already working on a recap article from week 1 as well that's going to be dropping. It'll probably be dropping before this podcast drops, actually. So how are you feeling with the new subscribers, man? I think it's just kind of cool to build this community around the show, right?
Yeah, you love to see it when they appreciate the work, and we've been ramping it up, like you said. It's nice to have a consistent flow, and we're gonna keep putting up content. I'll add more fantasy stuff as the week goes on, as the season goes on, but and then I'll even add. You'll get to read like where we're ranking in the fantasy pros accuracy competition, so the readers are fully aware of how we're doing.
Totally, man. It's exciting stuff. Exciting stuff. Like I said, I got a recap article that should be up by the time listeners listen here. I plan on doing, little studies on certain players, backfields, wide receiver groups as we get more data and stuff. So, yeah, just the start over there. So, shout out to everybody subscribing and shout out to all of our future subscribers who join up as well. Frank, we got a bunch of information to talk about here. And before we get to these takeaways, we actually had some very big injury news today. One piece dropped just before we went on the air here, but one piece I heard this morning on the Pat McAfee show from one Adam Schefter of ESPN was that Xavier Worthy, obviously he went out with that shoulder injury in week 1. He only ran one route in that game. Xavier Worthy is going to be out for, I believe it was sometime that Shefty said. So I don't know what that's going to look like. Obviously, I think we saw the impact already, Frank, in that Hollywood Brown got 14 targets in week 1. Now, I'm not ready to make my full opinion on this team because they don't have Rashee Rice. They're not going to have Worthy for a little while. So I think what we're going to see over the coming weeks is not going to be the final form here. But what are you taking away from that Worthy injury and seeing that he might miss a couple?
It really sucks because I was hopeful Worthy was going to take his game to the next level. And part of the appeal with Worthy's fantasy value was getting to have those first 6 games without Rashee Rice. Well, now, probably when Worthy's ready to return, it's going to be maybe one more game without Rice. And Rice is more of that volume target earner, even though I had my thoughts that maybe Worthy can overtake Rice. But now, if you drafted Rice, you got to be excited about that. I mean, Mahomes looked good. They were extra pass heavy. Like, I know they've
Mm-hmm.
always been pass heavy, the Chiefs have, but it felt like even more so there in week 1. It feels like they are determined to get back to that explosive passing game that they've been talking about all off season how they got to get back to it. So sucks for Worthy. It's disappointing. Hopefully, he comes sooner than later. Still, obviously, when he's back, he's a top 24 option, I would say. But it's just that, a bit of the shine has been worn off with this injury.
Totally. And when you think of the fact that he's a smaller guy, shoulder injuries, like you're impacting your shoulder a lot when you play football. Hopefully that doesn't linger for Worthy. I was kind of expecting a little bit of a mini breakout as somewhat of a Rashi Rice fader myself. I think for the next couple of weeks, though, it puts Hollywood Brown probably near wide receiver one territory for me, Frank. Like I was writing the wrap up article here and kind of going over the Chiefs game and things like that. And I actually started my week 2 rankings just to see where I was thinking that Hollywood Brown was going to come in. And so my rankings are not complete, but I actually have him at the wide receiver 16 so far. And once I go through all of the other players and things, he could drop, he could rise, but he is flirting with wide receiver one territory if those other two guys are not in there.
Well, with Brown, obviously, you love the increase in volume, love all the targets he got. For me, I'd be a lot more, cautious with his ranking Brown because I really don't think he's the same player as he used to be. Like he had that deep catch Brown did at the end near the end of the game, but prior to that catch, it was like really inefficient. And I mean, it was a game script where the Chiefs were playing from behind most of the game. I don't think they'll pass to that level again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, you got 16 targets. I mean, it's not really saying I'm going on a limb that Brown won't do that again. It's just that I'm just going to tread a little lightly. I think
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown is a reasonable wide receiver 3, so top 36 option. I haven't fully decided where I'd rank him, let's say this week, but I'd probably have him in, the high 20s or somewhere around there.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. To be determined. And as I mentioned, keep your eyes on the Substack for those weekly rankings to drop. Another one that happened right before we went on the air here, Frank, and it's kind of twofold actually with the 49ers. George Kittle is going to miss a few weeks with a hamstring injury. And Brock Purdy also is uncertain to play this coming week with shoulder and toe injuries, I saw. So not looking great for the Niners. All of this just spells Christian McCaffrey extreme upside to me. I think maybe Jawan Jennings to some degree, just because he is the bigger body wide receiver of him and Ricky Pearsall. So maybe he takes a little bit of those shorter Kittle targets. Pearsall was just fine this past week. So I think we can kind of like keep him like, I don't think this stuff is going to impact him as much because we saw that he's already kind of involved, but very curious as to what you think maybe both of these guys and especially Kittle missing would do for the other weapons.
Well, I do want to say that Joan Jennings actually is also banged up with a shoulder issue, and that could keep
Mm,
him out this week. Hopefully, it doesn't. But you got to love what you saw from Ricky Pearsall, someone who I was fading, but it looks lining up
yeah.
perfectly for Pearsall to break out. I mean, they got to feed him now with all the injuries, and he looked good. Ran a lot of deep routes, made some plays. Like you said, Christian McCaffrey is going to have a huge workload continuing what we saw in week 1. I kind of like the 49ers signing of Kendrick Bourne today,
Yeah.
bringing back a familiar face. He's a good blocker, knows the scheme. He gives them some like a stopgap patchwork type of pickup to help them survive this flurry of injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, one thing I will note is if Purdy's going to miss a game, because it sounds like if he does miss time, it'll be like one game.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't know, because as fans, we tend to forget like who the backup is on each team.
It's Mac
Mac
Daddy.
Jones is now the backup for the 49ers. And remember, Kyle Shanahan liked Mac Jones a lot.
Loves them.
There was that rumor that Kyle Shanahan liked Mac Jones over Trey Lance coming into the draft that year. Maybe he did, and Lance was forced onto him. We'll never know, but I mean, it's possible because the whispers that Shanahan liked Mac Jones. Maybe you never know. My point being is that clearly Shanahan sees that Mac Jones is a decent fit in his offense. So what I'm getting at is obviously not to pick up Mac Jones. It's just that maybe he could keep the offense afloat while Purdy is out to a degree where you're not like, oh, do I even start Pearsall? This offense is a mess. I don't think it will be a total mess. I think Mac Jones will be okay while Purdy is out, and that's good news. I mean, that's at least less bad news for Pearsall and CMC than it would be maybe on another team that lost their starting quarterback. If
Or if CJ Beathard was the backup or something still.
yeah,
Yeah, totally. We've seen Shanny bring in these guys and have them continue to run his offense. Like I think Brock Purdy was initially that guy as the final pick of the draft. He wasn't intended to start necessarily week one. He did it with Sam Darnold as well and a bunch of other quarterbacks he has done. Coincidentally, not with Trey Lance though, Frank. Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to monitor that for the Niners. Keep your eye on it. Purdy, we're not so sure if he's going to miss, but Kittle's definitely going to miss a few. So let's get into these takeaways, Frank, because like I said, we don't have time to hit all of them. Like there is a ton of stuff. And as I go through writing this Rap City article, there's more things that I'm not even hitting in the article. You know what I mean? Things that are kind of just no brainers, or maybe we just kind of must start players. But we're going to talk about some of the biggest ones that we're monitoring, maybe things that we don't want to overreact to, maybe some notable workloads or performances, Frank. And I have to start with maybe the biggest surprise for me, and that was in Cleveland with the Browns offense. I thought they were going to be kind of frisky in this game. It was a bit of a slobber knocker, though, 17-16 for the Bengals, I believe it ended. But the takeaway here was Dylan Sampson was almost a workhorse back, and Harold Fannin was heavily targeted. And we kind of liked the upside of these guys. There's some explosiveness with Fannin being a super good yak guy, Sampson not testing fast, but playing fast, being one of those kind of smaller backs. Um, and they just showed us in week one. Obviously, we knew that Quinshon Judkins wasn't going to be there for the Browns backfield. And so we thought Sampson was going to get a little bit of work, and we thought he was going to be kind of the spell guy for Jerome Ford, but it wasn't really that way, Frank. Sampson got 50% of the carries. He did only get 45.1% of the snaps, but the fact that they trusted him on those snaps to get half the team's carries is really good. He also got 8 targets, which is elite stuff for fantasy running backs. He caught all 8 of them for 64 yards. And I just think this is a really good sign for Dylan Sampson, obviously, and the team trusted him. I also think, and this might be a little cheeky, Frank, just because where I was preseason, I kind of see this as a good sign for Quinshon Judkins when he gets active as well. Because my worry was that Jerome Ford would be kind of playing well in this offense and, not giving Stefanski a reason to bring him out while the rookie comes along. But if we see that Ford's going to get like 45 to 50% snaps and not get a whole lot of work, it almost seems like Stefanski is just waiting for Judkins to have a 1-2 punch with Judkins and Sampson. I think Judkins is going to be the 1A first and second down banger, most likely. I think just his side speed combo plays to that. But man, Sampson looked like he can be an awesome, awesome change of pace. So I'm liking the Browns backfield rest of season,
Yeah.
Frank.
Yeah, first of all, we got to give credit to the Browns for like letting their rookies play right away from week one. Like you said, Dylan Sampson, large role, 8 targets. Harold Fannin, even despite David Njoku being there, they used Fannin everywhere, and he caught 7 of 9 targets for 63 yards. Little flex on my behalf. High stakes league. They do waivers Wednesday and Saturday. I did a $1 bid for Fannin because I'm like, maybe what if he looks good on Sunday and then becomes the hot
Huge.
ticket waiver? Because sometimes those Saturday waivers, you could slip it through the cracks because everyone's used to just Wednesday. And it worked out beautifully because now he's the hot ticket in town, and rightfully so. Fannin had huge college production and the heavy role being moved everywhere. Even with Njoku there, Fannon's going to have value, I think, all year. Maybe not to the point where I think he's a top 12 tight end like maybe others are saying, but I could definitely see top 15. And there's going to be some boom weeks there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you lost Kittle, I'm totally fine picking up Fannin and riding with him because now's the time to play him because Flacco's starting. Eventually, when they're like 1-8, they might be going to one of the rookies, and then it's not going to be a game where they're dropping back 45 times like
Yeah.
Flacco just did. So if you lost Kittle, that's the one I'm getting is Fannin 100%. I mean, if your league's deep enough, some of these leagues where your league mates don't roster more than one tight end, you're in a 12 teamer. I mean, even there, I'd probably pick up Fannin, but it might be a spot there
It's
where
hard to see.
there's there's bigger names there. But I don't know. I like what I saw, and he had great college production. It's going to be a pass heavy team. To your point about Judkins, I totally agree. I think it'll be a 1A, 1B. Sampson passing downs. Browns backfield's going to have value. Jerome Ford, I think, will be rendered useless once Judkins is back.
Yeah. Yeah, love all that. And yeah, Fannin, man, it's hard to see anybody who you want more than him being available in those leagues. You know what I mean? Like the beauty about Fannin
True.
too is that he is a yards after the catch monster. So a lot of this stuff he can do on his own, right? He doesn't have to be getting seam targets or anything like that. And I think it is going to stay, Frank, because the Browns ran 2 tight end sets on over 50% of their plays in week 1. And that's where Fannin saw 6 of his 7 receptions. So leading the team with 9 targets. He had 71.8% of the team's snaps, Frank, and that was more than guys like Dalton Kincaid, Jonnu Smith, and Zach Ertz. So give me some Harold Fannin as kind of that borderline tight end one because of that yak ability and because of the team's trust in him. This was magical to see that. And yeah, think about the rookie triumvirate they're going to have with Judkins and Sampson. To your point, Judkins and Sampson with one of those rookies at quarterback are going to be steaming both of them because that team's going to lean heavy on the run. So I think both of those guys will have standalone value. So yeah, the Browns offense is looking fun and young, aside from Flacco, I guess, but he's serviceable, right? He keeps this passing game
He's like
afloat because we don't like this
Unc,
passing game as much without him.
Uncle Flacco under center with all the kids.
Yeah, exactly. What do you got for a takeaway, Frank?
Well, first takeaway, how could I not start it off with Jackson Smith and Najigbo? Been hyping all off season. To borrow the term from Matthew Berry, he was my quote ride or die for the year. Just taking JSN everywhere in best ball third round, reaching for him past ADP, and a great start. 124 yards, and Darnold only threw for 170. They were super run heavy, which was quite disappointing to me a little bit. I knew the Seahawks would be run heavy, but like it was too much. They were first and second down runs. They were running inefficiently. Like give Darnold a chance there. They probably would have won the game if they
Mm-hmm.
were a little more aggressive. But
Not much
just as
play
I
action
thought,
either.
JSN, yeah, that was not a good sign. But love seeing JSN completely dominate targets. I think we're going to see that all year. This was why I wasn't getting like Lad McConkey in the second round because I thought JSN is kind of similar that you could get around later, and that allowed me to take someone like Bucky Irving or Jonathan Taylor at Lad's ADP.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my whole process in building a team this year is getting one of those round 2 running backs to go because I knew I wanted JSN third round. But it loves to I know it's only week 1, but that kind of big game on such a low passing volume type of game script really bodes well for his season long outlook. And I mean, he's an entrenched top 12 receiver rest of season.
Yeah. Signed, sealed, and delivered. Yeah. Something that I had just tweeted out earlier this morning, Frank, because I was looking at that too. And like Jackson Smith and Jig not only his target share, but his first read target share was 66.7%. So 2/3 of the team's first read targets, he was the first read. That is tied for third best over the last 4 years. Tied with Justin Jefferson and Terry McLaurin, only behind, sorry, yeah, tied for fourth best, I guess, only behind AJ Brown, Malik Neighbors, and Garrett Wilson. So, yeah, Jackson Smith and Jigba is full on alpha, gobbling all the targets in Seattle. Yeah, interesting week for the Seattle offense. Like everything around JSN was not necessarily as I expected, but JSN was exactly what I wanted. Exactly.
Yeah, I couldn't even scripted it even better than that.
Mm-hmm.
Like to start that off. Perfect
Beautiful.
start. I love to see it.
Beautiful. Okay, so what do we think about the Jets offense, Frank? Because I kind of thought this is what they were going to be. And we kind of talked about it as well. This is going to be like, it's almost the perfect offense as much as like the Jets have a stink on them. It's like the perfect offense to attach to for fantasy because you know exactly what is going to happen. And we saw that on Sunday. Justin Fields, insulated by a good run game. He was really effective and took care of the football, which I thought was great. He had 48 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns of his own. They only threw 22 passes. He completed 16 for 218 yards and a passing touchdown. I think he's a locked in top 12 quarterback. That's kind of the upside that we wanted from him. Brees Hall was amazing, Frank. We can't quite call him a bell cow. He was actually only 21st in running back snap share with 58.1%, which is egregious coaching, but whatever. He had 3 of 4 snaps inside the 5 yard line, though, and he was the only running back who got a target for the Jets. And so I think he's kind of a de facto bell cow, even though his snap share might not say that. And right now, heading into Monday Night Football, we are recording this on Monday afternoon, Frank. He's the running back 10. And I'm going to be high on him again in week 2. He goes against the Buffalo Bills, who just got torched by Derrick Henry. So Brees Hall wheels up. And then lastly, Garrett Wilson. I actually posted a hype video on the Substack, Frank. I don't know if you saw that. I just did a
Yeah.
little cut up of his touchdown just because I thought all offseason long that he was being disrespected. And he came in and showed us that he was. Caught 7 of his 9 targets for 95 and a tud. That touchdown was a sick deep ball. And that was Fields' only deep pass of the day. And so when you look at Garrett Wilson and how he wins and Justin Fields' normal MO where he's going to push the ball down the field, I think there's a ton of upside to burn even on Garrett Wilson. And that's all you need to worry about with the Jets offense. Like maybe a little Braylon Allen coming in. You keep an eye on how much he's spelling Brees Hall necessarily. But if Brees Hall is efficient like that, I don't think Braylon Allen's going to be an issue too much. So what did you make of the Jets offense? Are you as excited as I am, or are you waiting for this bottom to fall out?
Well, for one, I was shocked that that game turned into a shootout. I liked the under, and it was 38.5. I got destroyed on that. You have to love what you saw from the Jets offense. I thought it might be that ugly run heavy that could hurt Garrett Wilson. And Brees Hall looked great. I'm already, as they like to say, capitulating on this take. Like Brees Hall is a high end RB2, maybe could get in the RB1 range. He looked amazing, and he seems motivated for a big year, get that big contract. One thing about me is when I think that I'm wrong initially, I'm not going to be stubborn. Like I seen what I need to see. I know Braylon Allen is playing like I expected Braylon Allen to, but it's not that I thought Brees Hall was like never going to be the same, but I was a little wary about him because he just didn't look as good last year. I had to see it again, and that's why I was cautious with Brees Hall. But he looks great, so
Yeah.
congrats. And Garrett Wilson, I came, to the into the season thinking he'd be good with Fields, like Fields went with DJ Moore. Uh, but then I started to worry about the offense a little bit. And I wasn't really taking Garrett Wilson as much in drafts. He was going in the 3rd round. I was getting JSN. But then in my home league drafts, I was drafting one with my brother, and Garrett Wilson kept falling. He's like in the 4th round now. And I'm like, none of us really were like hyped to get Garrett Wilson because we were worried about the offense. But I'm saying this is a player who's falling way past ADP here. We got to just take a shot in case we're
Mm-hmm.
wrong, because if we are, we're going to get an absolute huge steal here. And we have to be happy with how he looked in week 1. Reason I bring up that story is because it's a good advice to, you may not be right. And like you may be fading someone to the point where you don't want them even when they fall. But if they fall far enough in ADP, the player, you should take a shot in case you are wrong. Because if you are, like you get a home run there, and I may have with Garrett Wilson, who's my receiver 3 on that team. So in short, love what I saw from the Jets offense. Just that, obviously I'm not going to think they're this high scoring one. It might be just one of those crazy games, but definitely encouraging.
Totally. That was a sick game to watch just overall. So just from a real football standpoint, it was a good one for sure. Um yeah, I think the Jets could be kind of fun if they can keep this up a little bit, but yeah, we have to be a little bit weary considering who's at the helm throwing the ball. But what's your next one, Frank?
My next one, and it's not really anything like, digging in. It's just Derrick Henry blows up again. How did in best ball even? I don't care that it's structurally better to take receivers first, whatever. How do you let Derrick Henry fall to the 2nd round again?
Mm-hmm.
Like how? How? How
Every
can you
year.
think Derrick Henry was going to decline in this situation? Like, don't get me wrong. I've faded Derrick Henry the last few seasons, including his first year in Baltimore. But it's gotten to the point like you can't do it anymore. It's just such a perfect situation for Derrick Henry and probably the best offense in the NFL. And he just absolutely smashed. And I hope a lot of those best ball players that just were heavily hammering the receivers, they get burned by their low Henry shares because, like, come on, it's just too much overthinking. He should have been cemented as a first rounder, as high as, honestly, as high as you want to take him. Really,
Mhm.
I would have probably, I had him like towards the end of the first round, but
Yeah.
like, come on, he should have been in the first round. You could have got him sometimes. I was doing best ball on drafters. I'm sure it was the same on underdog. You could have got Henry like 15,
Mhm.
16, 17. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, that is the most galaxy braining garbage,
Yeah, you
really.
could be rolling in with like a Malik Neighbors and Derrick Henry, or even like if Justin Jefferson slipped a little bit and in the first round and you were at like 6, you get Justin Jefferson at 6 if the other guys take some running backs, and then you come around with a Derrick Henry, you're loaded. So yeah, I think that's a good take. And just it's awesome to see these aging guys kind of be the outliers and continue to be the outliers and outliers and outliers. And I mean, Derrick Henry is the ultimate one of those. And like it's just such a good fit, like you said. Um, you can't stop this guy. You just can't stop this guy. You got to account for Lamar. You can't stop both of them.
Yeah,
So
exactly. That's why it's like, what would it look like for him to disappoint? He just has to get injured because he's just not gonna suddenly play poorly. Like in this situation, it's about, honestly, as perfect of a running back situation for someone as explosive as him that you can ask for in probably the last, them or the Eagles with Saquon. It's like,
yeah,
how many better situations can you think of for a running back in the last, what, decade, even
yeah, who
longer?
knows? Probably longer. Yeah, it's yeah, the guy's a fucking unit, Frank. He is a unit. Um, Another running back that's not washed, Travis Etienne, Frank. Um, all of us fantasy gamers spent all offseason waffling on Tank Bigsby, Bashal Tootin. Is Travis Etienne going to get traded? What's going to happen? And then late in the process, we started to say, okay, ETN could be the guy. ETN's probably going to be the guy. Didn't think he was going to be a bell cow, but he was basically a bell cow in week 1. He had 16 carries for 143 yards on the ground, which the explosiveness is still there. Three more receptions for only 13 yards as a receiver. That's fine. But I think only one other running back got a target, and that was LaQuint Allen, funny enough. So they are carrying 4 running backs, but it looks like that doesn't necessarily matter because ETN is the guy who is getting majority of the work. I don't know if that's going to maintain throughout the entire season. Obviously, breakdown is something that could happen with him, and these other guys have really nice skill sets that could be used. But what do you take? Like, I know you were a big Tank Bigsby truther going into the season, Frank. Are you holding firm on Tank Bigsby, or are you ready to move over to Travis Etienne's world?
So throughout the offseason, early on when I was doing early best ball, Tank Bigsby was going like outside the top 150. So I was taking him as the back end. He was going clearly third in this group. I was taking him there. I was saying, hey, he could end up being the one who leads the team in carries. I mean, he was the best runner on the team last year. Then, I started to back off a little bit. His price rised. Bigsby was getting more looks and some buzz in camp. Started to take some Tootin because the new regime handpicked him. They really liked Tootin. I wasn't really taking ETN ever in best ball until in one of my home leagues. I needed RB2, waited really long. I took ETN because I needed early season production, and I felt he had a better chance of playing early than Tootin. And you see, speaking back to my point of Wilson, someone I wasn't excited to get, but hey, you have to take a shot because it might work out perfectly. Now I'm loving that because
Mm-hmm.
back to my earlier point about me giving in on Brees Hall, and I'm realizing I'm wrong. Same thing. I act quick. Bigsby, no.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be stubborn here. Like, he only got usage at the end of the game when the game was well out of reach. He's not worth. Maybe on the team where I have ETN, I also have Bigsby just because I want to see who was the one who emerged.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I won't drop Bigsby yet, but like, it's gonna be in a week or two. Like, he's
Yeah.
not. I think he's virtually dust in terms of fantasy value because the other one you want is Tootin. Tootin already played ahead of Bigsby, so that's that. If that's that,
Mm-hmm.
but you gotta love ETN. You gotta think maybe ETN just didn't look good last year because maybe he wasn't fully healthy
He was a little
because
banged up too, yeah, for sure. He was hurt
he
the
looked.
season before, I believe, and then he kind of came in with just some little stuff.
Yeah, and I know the matchup against the Panthers was obviously a smash, so we're not going to be
Yeah,
here like ETN's a top 15 rest of season, but he's clearly the one you want to roster right now, the one you want to start in this backfield, high end flex RB2. I probably rank him in the top 24 for sure. And this week they play the Bengals as well, so that's an
yeah,
exploitable matchup. So gotta be excited if you were like targeting ETN in this backfield because looks like you're right.
totally. And I mean, you were at some points getting him in like eighth rounds, which is a
Yeah.
huge win at this point. I got a couple more. Frank, you want to hit me with one?
Yeah, let's go with another one, another running back who was a consensus fade by the fantasy community that I disagreed with throughout the offseason. That's James Cook. Everyone
Guilty.
worried about this touchdown regression. Yes, I know it's one game, but the fact is that this is an elite offense with an excellent offensive line and a great running game. The touchdowns, yeah, they're probably going to decrease from last year. I mean, he got what 16, but that doesn't mean he can't get 10 or 9.
Hmm.
And look, it's not like the Ravens. I know it was a shootout, but like generally they're a good defense,
Great
and it's not
defense.
like they're not an easy running team to run against. Not that Cook was efficient, but you have to like that he started to get used in the passing game more again. That was his forte coming out. But then last year, that production really dipped as they used Ty Johnson more. But James Cook, 5 catches, 58 yards. You love to see that. Point is, high end RB2, borderline RB1. And I know you had to go third round, but sometimes Cook was slipping to the fourth. And if you took him in the heart of that holdout, you could have maybe got him early fifth in early drafts. So love to see what I saw from James Cook.
Yeah, hell of a game from the Ravens and the Bills last night. That was just unbelievable. I might actually watch that one back again today just because it was really fun. But I'm going to stay with Buffalo here, Frank, because Keon Coleman. This is one where I was wrong here too, Frank. I was mega fade on Keon Coleman, like egregious fade on Keon Coleman. And it looks like he is now the Bills wide receiver one, folks. And so this is me adjusting because I kind of I like the profile of him. I like that maybe not his profile coming out, but I have previously liked similar profiles of raw wide receivers who have the big body and the speed and who can make those jump balls. Keon Coleman looked pretty good for the Bills last night. 8 receptions for 112 yards and a touchdown on 11 targets. And yeah, just a big miss by me. He had like 24% of the team's or Josh Allen's targets, 33% of the team's air yards, Frank. I think that spells upside for me. And he did get 2 end zone targets. We saw one of them was really nicely defended by, I think, like Nate Wiggins or something, and kind of like fell off of Keon Coleman's back while he was on the ground or something. So opportunity for a second touchdown there for Keon Coleman. And I'm recalibrating on this and I'm ready to move him way up if this continues. I'm still skeptical of the Bills consistently honing in on one guy, but it looks like they did this past week, Frank. I mean, Keon got the 11, James Cook he got 5, and then Shakir got 9, Palmer got 9. Like there's work to go around here, even if these other guys do something. Shout out to Josh Palmer, fellow Canadian, but what are you thinking about Keon Coleman? I can't recall where you were at on him. I think you were taking him as a value shot on the chance that he was the wide receiver one in Buffalo. And if that was the case, congratulations, my man.
Well, you know what? I wasn't really
No.
targeting Keon Coleman just because like he started to get pushed up with those positive reports out of camp. So I didn't really get much of him. But I do want to throw a little bit of cold water. For one, the Bills were like Josh Allen, like they went pass heavy like crazy in the second half, especially at the end of the game, obviously because they were down 2 scores and made that crazy comeback. That's not something that's going to happen often. Like what Allen just did, 46 attempts, 394 passing yards. He's probably not having 40 attempts the rest of the year. This is still a run heavy offense. Like that's just what it's been with Joe Brady. So there will be a lot of boomer busts to Coleman. That doesn't mean he's not a solid upside receiver 3, top 36 option, probably closer like, mid 20s, late 20s,
Yeah.
who can have that high ceiling, big spike week potential for games like this, playing with Allen. Definitely like Coleman as the top receiver on this team, and bodes well for the Bills because they need that perimeter deep threat. That's the missing piece. Mari Cooper couldn't give that for them last year. So if Coleman could emerge, that'd be huge.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it'll be interesting watching the Bills offense because seeing that three receivers got 9 or more targets is definitely something to take note of. So yeah, good stuff there, Frank. Last one for me. This is kind of another miss on my part in thinking that this guy would be something from the jump. Caleb Johnson is absolutely buried on the Steelers depth chart, Frank. I'm down bad a little bit about on this one because I was being a little bit stubborn on him and saying no, he's gonna get some work. He's gonna be the guy. They know that he's the most explosive guy. He only saw 2 snaps total and got 1 carry in week 1. Kenneth Gainwell led the team with 53.1% snaps, and Jalen Warren had 48.1. Not looking good for Caleb Johnson. Maybe it's just like the rookie veteran deference kind of thing where they're giving the vets who maybe are better blockers and better situationally some time. I'm still holding Caleb Johnson for a little bit, especially in obviously in Dynasty, but in redraft. Um, like while Warren and Gainwell got most of the work, they were nowhere near efficient with all of their work. Warren had 59 yards on 13 touches, and his 13.9 PPR points, Frank, was saved by a touchdown. It would have been a bad day without that touchdown. So I still think that Caleb Johnson is the guy with the explosiveness, the guy with the burst, the big playability on this team, and that will eventually shine through. But I think we're going to have to wait longer than I was hoping.
Yeah, this is a stash. I wouldn't drop Caleb Johnson yet. Like, I wasn't really drafting Jalen Warren. I was still ranking Johnson ahead just because the late season upside, but I wasn't taking any of them really, unless Johnson fell in best ball. I expected a slow start, especially when you had that word that, his pass protection issues for Caleb Johnson. I mean, there's Gainwell there, there's Warren. But yeah, definitely don't drop Caleb Johnson, but huge hit to value, especially you have to use a top 100 pick to get him.
Mm-hmm.
But the Steelers, that was crazy, that shoot. I can't believe that game happened that way.
That was nuts.
We'll have
Yeah.
to see their offense going forward. But yeah, just stash Johnson on your bench, and obviously he's not even close to startable. But that was my favorite bet of the week, under 7.5
Yeah, that was nice.
rushing attempts, Caleb Johnson,
Yeah.
because I really thought he would have you know, play sparingly in week 1.
Yeah. Well played. Well played by you, sir. Any more takeaways on your end, Frank?
Another takeaway for me, we got to talk about Jacory Croskey-Merritt. He was my once I saw that the Commanders were moving on from Brian Robinson, JCM Bill was the one I wanted in the backfield, but his price got so high, especially home league, 7th round. Sometimes he'd go. And with Chris Rodriguez looking good in camp, I was thinking maybe JCM could have a slow start. And then I was just going to take a last round shot on Rodriguez, and maybe he's like that red zone threat. Well, you can forget about that. Rodriguez, healthy scratch. JCM looked great. Bill was explosive. Um, Eckler's going to end up keeping his same role as last year, as that pass catcher and change of pace, and it's going to be the Bill show as the 1A. And he's going to be an RB2 in a very good offense. Probably like in a low end RB2 towards the flex, maybe like in the 26, 20, like around there, but have some chance for spike weeks. It's just that, Debo's going to take a carry here and there. Eckler will. There may be some games where they surprisingly activate Rodriguez and give him a little bit of touches. But I like Bill overall. I'm just saying there's going to be some peaks and valleys, but you have to love what you saw in week
Mm-hmm.
1.
Yeah, he had a nice big play. He had a touchdown, outproduced. Okay, so I use a lot of fantasy points, expected fantasy points, and so that weights like the types of opportunities and things like that. JCM doubled his expected fantasy points. He was expected to score 7.2 on the touches he got, almost doubled. He got 14.2 PPR fantasy points per game. So, or sorry, half PPR fantasy points per game. So yeah, good signs that he can do more than the opportunities. He can do more with the opportunities than say like the median level running back would. So yeah, it was a good week for Bill Truthers because I was a little bit of a fader. I have to say. Alrighty, Frank. I don't have any more. So if you got another one, feel free to rattle it off.
Another one that we can talk about here is that Jackson Dart era is going to start really soon. Russell Wilson did not look good. They're just going to wait till Andrew Thomas is back, probably their left tackle for the Giants, because the offensive line was a mess. They don't want to, you know, put Dart in that kind of
Mhm.
situation. But once Dart is in there, he'll be appealing due to his mobility.
Yeah, for sure. Liked what we saw from the preseason. I love me some Jackson Dart. I do have another one, Frank. Actually, my memory has been a little bit jogged. Are the Indianapolis Colts an absolute wagon now or what? Like, geez, man. They
Wow.
dirt napped the Miami Dolphins, who look like a
That,
dumpster fire of epic proportions, I might add.
hey, remember to our listeners, early
Frankie was
offseason
on it.
offenses to watch, the Colts, if Daniel Jones wins the job. And I'm pissed at myself for pulling back on that when Anthony Richardson started to look okay. And I was like, oh, is Daniel Jones going to win the job? I don't know. But I'm glad at least I got a little bit of those best ball shares of him. And it's just because, it's a good situation. Shane Steichen calls good plays. A good play caller. He's good with quarterbacks. Offensive line's good. Look at all the weapons they have. So you love to see it for Danny Dimes. Unfortunately, didn't get much Michael Pittman, who looked great, looked healthy. Josh Downs is playing like 50% of the snaps. Maybe that's because Downs was banged up. Maybe he'll get more. He'll probably be boomer bust. But what if Daniel Jones is the new Sam Darnold for this year?
Dude, it is looking like it. It is looking like it. And the first thing that I thought about was your call on the show where you're like, this offense could be frisky with Daniel Jones in there. So, yeah, that was another good one there. And they looked so good. Like he was put in good positions. He didn't make any mistakes. He ran in 2 touchdowns as well, I believe. And I think looking at all the other pieces around Daniel Jones, it was kind of a pleasant surprise. There's a little bit of pain in there here and there. Like you look at the 2 leading target getters were Michael Pittman Jr. and Tyler Warren. Pittman Jr. had 9, Tyler Warren had 8. Nobody else had more than 3. And I think that's sweet because that allows us to easily attach to where the upside's going to be here. You mentioned Josh Downs kind of battling the injury a little bit, so hopefully he does come back. One of the first things I looked up today, Frank, because I think I talked about it on our show here too, was that Josh Downs had not been playing in 2 wide receiver sets.
Oh, yeah, you did.
So I went this morning and took a look at it and found that the Colts ran 2 tight end sets on 11 of 33 dropbacks. Josh Downs, 0 snaps.
Oof.
So not looking good. I actually put a tweet out to that effect earlier today. Jaden Reed also only had 1 route on 8 of 34 dropbacks as well for 12 personnel. So those guys who I was hopeful would get some more run in 2 wide sets are not looking to. And so that was a little bit of pain for me. But yeah, if we can attach to Michael Pittman, Tyler Warren, and nobody else in this passing game, this Colts offense is going to look nice. And then have those other guys be like a little bit of cherry on top for the real football Colts, sure. But yeah, Michael Pittman Jr. looks back as somebody who could put up wide receiver 1 numbers.
Damn, yeah. And Tyler Warren, loved that. One of my favorite tight ends. He looked great. Exciting stuff for the Colts offense.
Totally.
Well,
I think you had Warren at tight end 7 on your
yeah.
season long rankings too, right? Yeah, you were ahead of consensus. That's a nice little hit for you too.
Yeah.
All right, Frank, I think that does it for our big takeaways. Like I mentioned, there's a lot more takeaways that we didn't cover here. I would invite any of our listeners to go to the Substack and check out Rap City, my recap article that I'll be doing, where I drop some stats and some opinions and some information about some of these teams and what I saw from the week that was. We're going to have Frank's bets coming up as well, so keep an eye on that. He'll be putting them out for the Thursday nighter and for each of the slates thereafter. We got a lot of good stuff coming, guys. Like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on the audio platforms, follow us on social media. Yeah, tons of good stuff. Weekly rankings should be coming out shortly after this pod drops. I would say Thursday morning is when we usually try to have those ready. So yeah, Frank, it's just a big time for True North, eh?
Love it. Love it. Great time. And on to week 2.
Absolutely. Can't believe we're already saying that, my man, but it feels great. It was good to jump back into the lab with you and talk some ball. And we're just getting started, brother. So for Frank Amaranti, the Italian Dream, I am Travis Seal. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.